All right, so we're about to get started. There is a chat function here on Zoom, so if you have questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat. Other than that, you'll be able to come off mic and ask questions at the end of the program or interact as you will. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on over to our presenter this evening, which is Susie Marsh.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us here tonight. I just wanted to talk to you guys today about springing into organization. So we're going to talk about decluttering and organization, all that fun, and I'm going to be showing you products too. So that's going to be the fun part. So just a little bit of background about me. I am a professional organizer and NAPO member for 15 years, and I'm in the West Michigan area. So I am located in Wayland near, not too far from the Gun Lake Casino, actually, on Cobb Lake. And so I'm local to Wayland. And so I service Grand Rapids and down all the way down to Kalamazoo. And out to the lake shore as much as clients want me to go that direction. And sometimes the other direction too. But anyway, so I tend to work on residential situations, so in people's homes and their workspaces. So you can see on the slide here on the left side, kind of all the different types of work that I do. And I do specialize in working with older adults and working with those with chronic disorganization. And we're going to talk a little bit about that too today. All right. Let's go to the next slide. There we go. All right. Questions to ask yourself about clutter and organization. Do you desire a simpler life? Are you ready to let go of items? Life transition underway, like maybe moving or downsizing, physical challenges, new job. Is clutter impacting your relationships? Is brain clutter and physical clutter causing overwhelm and anxiety? I know a lot of people that cause a lot of anxiety seeing how much clutter there is. Can you find important documents easily, like your banking statements or your budget or your bills or the insurance forms, that kind of thing? Are you rebuying items, like wasting money because you can't find the items? Are you constantly looking for lost or misplaced items, like your keys, your wallet, your phone, etc.? All those hot spot items that everybody's always looking for all the time. Is it hard to keep your house organized and clutter-free because of chronic disorganization? So those are just some questions to kind of think about. Stuff. Okay, so we all have too much stuff. 48% of Americans consider their homes to be at least somewhat cluttered with items they no longer use. So that's about half of us. And 72% of Americans believe they would gain more space in their homes by purging unused items, but 41% haven't decluttered for over a year. So you haven't gone to the closet that's overstuffed. You haven't gone into your junk drawer, so that's where you haven't decluttered. Now, 1 in 7 Americans have a room in their home they cannot use because it is filled with things they rarely use. Anybody here have clutter? Raise their hands. So yeah, so we all have stuff. Now, I'm a social worker by training as well. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. I'm 30 years as a social worker. And so I work with the chronic disorganization as well as situational disorganization. And I wanted to explain that a little bit, what that means. So chronic disorganization is usually marked by longevity. So it's something that you've dealt with like throughout your whole life. And it interferes with your quality of life. And it maybe is resistant to self-help efforts. So things like, having all the organizing bins or buying all the organizing books, but not necessarily being able to put that into play or to use those things. And chronic disorganization challenges can stem from conditions such as anxiety, depression, hoarding issues, chronic illness, traumatic brain injury, things like ADD, attention deficit disorder, and PTSD, and there's many others as well than these, but it just kind of gives you an idea. So it's something that's long-term that you deal with organization. Now, situational disorganization it's caused by circumstances in a person's life where it's not an ongoing situation. So example, maybe you had a medical condition that popped up, like you broke your ankle or something. So it makes it harder to get around and to get your things put away, and the clutter may be starting to build up. change in the family situation. Maybe you've had a birth of a grandchild who's come to live with you. Maybe you've had a death in the family, job loss. Maybe you're moving. That's always a really hard one too, where it causes a lot of stress and anxiety for people. But it's usually more short term because you're going to be moving into a home. Lack of time. So maybe people have a lot of work obligations or family obligations that make it hard to get to organization, to get to deal with your house. And then spaces are inadequate. So maybe that's a small home, has a lack of storage. Maybe it just isn't really set up real great for organization. So that's the difference between the two of those. And a lot of people usually ask me questions about that. And also, why is excessive clutter a problem? Well, it can be a safety hazard. If you have a lot of pathways or piles, you can have a risk of items falling over on you, and we don't want that. Risk of fire too, if you have too much stuff in your house, it can be a fire hazard and be hard for first responders to come into the home, which like your EMS or your fire or police. And also can be a public hazard. If there's things like infestations or unsanitary conditions, things are in disrepair, that can cause public health issues as well. And then inside your own home, you may have things like black mold or, animal urine, feces, bug bites, and, just all that kind of stuff. Food poisoning if you have too much food, etc. So just wanted to explain a little bit about why too much clutter can be a problem if it gets a little bit more out of control. And then the other question people usually ask me is, what is the difference between collecting and hoarding? Well, collecting is usually involves display of items for show. So you have a sense of pride for those items collected, specific locations in the home for the collection to be housed, like maybe the curio cabinet in the corner on the shelves. And usually budgets for the items to save money for the items and acquire new ones in the collection, and then feels a sense of satisfaction when adding items to the collection. And items are usually organized and well maintained. Now, you start having hoarding behaviors when there's and feel embarrassment for the possessions. There may be too much of a mess. There may be a lack of functional organization of possessions. Loss of living space, where too much clutter, maybe some pathways going on there, have some debt, maybe too much purchasing or dumpster diving can happen as well, gathering of items, doing a lot of thrift store shopping. And then can see the potential in use in items, no matter if the item is of little value or maybe broken. So they see a lot of value in every item, no matter if it has no value or not. And then strained relationships over the amount of clutter. So when you have too much of it and it's having hoarding behaviors, which hoarding is actually its own disorder. So if you know somebody that has that disorder, they usually need professional help in order to deal with that. So that's the extreme end of having too much stuff, too much clutter in the home. All right, now I want to talk to you about treasures or trash. So when you look at these pictures, everybody has a different take on what they see when they see these pictures. So the top left-hand corner, the Farmer Pete's lard container, somebody would say, oh, well, I can just throw that out because it's old and it's kind of rusty. Another person would say, well, no, that's not trash. That's something that's an antique and that is collectible. Same thing for the chair on the bottom left-hand corner, where you have the chair that's kind of a little bit on rough shape there. But somebody could see some potential in that and maybe repainting it, or may like it just as it is an antique. So I wanted people just to have an idea that some person's treasure may be another person's trash. And when you're dealing with your own stuff, your own clutter, your own items, your own possessions in your home, it may have a value or it may not. We just don't know. You get sometimes, when you have things that have a value, which actually this was quite valuable. A client of mine had this and she sold it. I think it was like $150 that she ended up getting for that. So it's you just don't know whether it's going to have value. So downsizing and decluttering to-dos. So The main thing is when you are decluttering a space and you're getting ready to reorganize it, is you want to make sure that the item has a purpose and a place in your spaces. You got to ask yourself those questions, and then talk to your family members about your wishes too, about your wishes to downsize your possessions and declutter. So if you want to think about giving your items to your friends and family so you can enjoy them, enjoying the items. Now I have a realtor friend who I used to do speeches with, and she would say, do the living while you're giving, so you're knowing where it's going. And so that's, you know, something that she would always say to the crowd. And then people would be like, oh yeah, you know, maybe it'd be better if I asked my family members about taking those items from me, you know, so I can see them enjoying it while I'm still alive. And then the big one is, don't let guilt dictate what items you keep. So a lot of times, you know, we get presents from people and we don't necessarily maybe like the items, but we feel guilty and we keep them. I'm sure everybody can kind of relate to that. And the thing is, so that person gave that to you out of love and, you know, kindness to you. I don't think they actually were thinking that you would have to hold on to something forever and ever if it wasn't something that you really have a purpose and place for in your life. Now, if they do give you a big guilt trip, then that's on them, not really on you. You can keep whatever you feel like is going to have a purpose and place in your home, in your spaces. I wanted to talk just a little bit too about moving, because a lot of people have a hard time. They either end up overwhelmed or anxious when it's time to move, and they tend to just pack up everything and then go. Whereas you really want to downsize and declutter and really know what things you have before you move, because you don't want to have that expense to actually move those items if it's not anything that you really like or want or have a purpose or place anymore in your home. So you want to think about that and map out your spaces on where you're moving to, and see if all those items can fit in your new spaces. And if you are going to be moving, start early, or if you're even just downsizing, maybe thinking about a senior living community, or you're going to be moving in with family or friends or anything like that. Start early, at least 12 to 18 months prior to your move, so you have time to have your possessions you know, move out to either donation or family or friends, that kind of thing. And then I just wanted to talk a little bit about utilizing all your valuable spaces in your home. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when we get into the products, because I have some really good examples. I'm kind of bummed I can't be there in person with you guys so I can show you them all in person, but I'm going to do my best to show you on camera some of these items for organizing. All right, now how do you get started with decluttering and getting ready to organize your spaces? So you really want to make sure that you have a process to it. And this is the process that a lot of organizers tend to use. So I have boxes that I set up. So let's say you're going to do a closet, and you take that closet, you open the door, and you set out some boxes, empty boxes, and you label them. And you're going to label them donate, give to family and friends, keep. So that means items that you're going to keep in that closet, and then toss and recycle. So make sure you have trash handy on site. And then you're going to have a relocate box as well. And the reason you have a relocate box is so you don't end up going down a rabbit hole with trying to walk everything around the house. Like, let's say in the closet you found a hammer, and it doesn't necessarily belong there, but it belongs in the toolbox. But you don't want to necessarily put it in the toolbox right then and there, because then you're taking yourself away from your project to go through the closet. So so what you do is you start in your closet, and you start pulling things out, and you decide which category those items go into. And once you get through the whole closet and you have the items put into those categories, then you can start thinking about organization. But you have to declutter first, and then you have to reorganize second. And then you have to measure your spaces too. So actually measure second, and then reorganize. So making sure that the bins and baskets and products that you get are going to fit into those spaces. So after the sorting is completed, you want to make sure that your donate items, usually I just recommend that you stick it right into your vehicle. So you have it right there in your car and you can drive it to your charity of choice. And sometimes, people, you can just drive around for weeks having those things in your car and you're not think about it. So I say, put a sticky note on your steering wheel. And that way you can remember that you have to drop that off and it's in the back of your car. The same thing can apply to if you're family or friends too. Sometimes people just have a box and they stick it by their front door. And every time a family member comes over, you have them check the box and see if there's any stuff that's theirs or something that you want to give to them. We kind of talked about the relocate box, but that becomes kind of like your homework box because it may have a bunch of things in it that didn't belong in their closet, but it has to go to the other spaces in your home. That hammer, you would walk around and you'd put that back in the toolbox where it belongs. Once you are doing your homework, I guess you'd say. And then make sure you take out your trash and recycle to the waste area right away. So then you can have that sense of accomplishment. And then you're going to be left with your keep box. And that's all of the stuff. And you may have multiple keep boxes. So sometimes if you fill up one box, you got to get another one and put the items in there into the second box. So you may end up with multiple keep boxes, but those items are going to go back into your closet and using some of the organizing products that I'm going to be talking about. Could be an option. Then that organization is going to make that closet a lot more easy to open that door and be happy about what you see in that space. A lot of people ask me, so where do you start first? How do you know what areas to tackle first? Well, save the sentimental or the intimate things for last because those tend to be the hardest. So kitchens are usually easy to do. So you can sort out duplicate utensils, throw out your old spices and expired foods. So take one cabinet at a time and just start sorting that out and find that old food and expired things. And that usually can go pretty quickly. Your bathroom, remove your cosmetics, the old cosmetics and expired meds. I was just reading an article the other day where it's talking about your old like lotions and that kind of thing. They turn rancid after at least 18 months. So, if you have like lotions and like personal care, gels and lotions and all that kind of stuff, you want to make sure that that's not rancid and starting to turn because of the chemicals in it. So you want to make sure that those get gone and into the trash. Expired meds. I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the end, but you don't want to put your old medications into the flush them. You don't want to flush them down the toilet, or you don't want to throw them in your trash. You actually want to try to get them to a recycling location. And I will talk about that a little bit more. And clothing is always a good one to start on as well. So be really, really realistic with yourself on what you can wear and what you want to wear. And you want to make sure that, a lot of people have a problem with like, well, what if I go up and down in sizes? And I say, well, what's your normal size? What do you normally feel like you're at? Then keep mostly those clothes, but it's okay to keep, some clothes that are, a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger. We all have those times where we kind of go up and down a little bit in our sizes. But you just want to be really realistic and really figure out whether or not you're going to wear those items again. So yesterday I was working with a client who had a big closet, walk-in closet, and we ended up with 10 bags of donate clothes, of the big black bags, 10 bags of it. So she really had to really downsize a lot of her clothing in order for the new clothing that she had gotten to fit. So she hadn't gone through any of her clothing in quite a long time. And so we were going back into the 80s, finding clothes that were quite old. So which the 80s are kind of back, with some of those styles. So but those are just some ideas on the areas to start with first. So kitchen, bathroom, clothing. And then I wanted to talk about a little bit on what to do with all those items that that you came across that you don't want anymore, that don't have a purpose or place in your home anymore. And this slide is, I know it's very full, but it's actually just talking about what those different options are in yellow. So like you have garage sales. You know, the good thing about garage sales is that, you know, all the money goes back to you, but the bad part is it's a lot of labor involved for not as much money, you know, for the effort that you put into it. But some people love doing garage sales, and I say you go for it if you like doing it. Estate sales or auctions, that's if you have things that are a little bit more valuable and you want to, or you have a large amount of items too. So estate sales, they're good for if you do have items that are worth a little bit more than what you get at a garage sale. The bad side or the cons for estate sales and auctions, there's that the company is going to take a percentage of what those sales are. You know, it can be anywhere from 40 to 60%, and you know, just depending on the company. But that's how they get paid. So they want to make sure that they have things in the sale or the auction that's going to be pulling in enough money to make it worth your while and their while as well. Donation is always a great option. You know, just pick the charities that you really like. You can, you know, go and look online and see, you know, kind of what your favorite charities are. And because they changed the tax code a few years back, the donations aren't as much as for your taxes as what they used to be. But I always tell people, just check with your tax preparer and see what the current deduction amount is. It used to be 300 that you could donate and still get a tax deduction on since those tax changes happen. But just check with your CPA or your tax professional to see if you can donate items and have that count on your taxes. And some of the cons of donation is some of the charities, not all charities accept all the items, you know, some like beds or cribs or kids car seats, that kind of thing, just because, you know, you have the federal regulations on like car seats and cribs and all of that, and it's really hard to resell those. I don't even think they can actually resell some of those. So I usually tend to try to look for some refugee programs, that kind of thing, for donating things like beds or couches or anything to help them set up their apartments for the refugees. Consignment's a good option, especially like for clothing. If you have high value clothing or things that are in style, again, the cons to that is that you'll have to pay some consignment costs to that. So, you know, they're going to keep, you know, 60% and you're going to keep 40% of the cost of, you know, or what they receive. And when somebody buys an item that was yours. But it does work for a lot of people that have the in style clothing and have it, and it's a good value clothing, or you know, sometimes the accessories and all of that as well. And then online, a lot of people like to sell online, and that can be anywhere from eBay to Craigslist to Facebook Marketplace is a really big one. You got Mercari. And then if there are things that you do want to give away, you can also use online options like the Buy Nothing Facebook groups or Free Cycle, where you can give away things that you want to have a bigger audience, so you can, you know, make sure that people that need it want to get it. So like a Buy Nothing group is always a good option for that. The thing with online though is some of the cons are it takes a lot of time, and you got to be able to be a little bit tech savvy and check messages, and, you know, of course, being the safety concerns with doing that one-on-one sale with people you don't necessarily know. So that kind of covers ways to move your items on that don't have a purpose and place in your home. This is more about paperwork, and I'm not going to go too much in detail on this, except I wanted you guys to be able to see these ways on getting off the junk mail lists. Now that's a way to keep your paper more organized, because you're going to have less of it coming into your home. So if you learn anything tonight from me, learn that dmachoice.org is where you can go and you can get off the junk mail lists by going to that website. And it costs like maybe $2, but you have the option to opt out of a lot of junk mail for 10 years. Or you have the option to do a permanent one as well. And it works really great. It just really trickles it down to nothing. And you want to pair that up with optoutprescreen.com. And what that does is that gets you off of the credit cards and insurance solicitations that you get all the time, the zero credit and annual fee and all of that stuff. It'll get you off of those lists as well. So if you combine those two together, you should be getting off of a lot of those junk mail sites. And paperkarma.com is another way to get off junk mail. It's where you're actually taking an app on your phone and you're taking a picture of the item, the junk mail item, and that is gets sent into the company Paper Karma, and then they get you off the list. And there is a charge to that. I think it's like $3 or $4 per month to do that. So, but it comes in real handy. I actually had to do all of these when my uncle passed away. He had an estate and I was in charge of the estate. And I did not know that when you do a permanent address change, the United States Postal Service sends your name out to like 500 different companies when you move. So when I had changed his address to my address, I got spammed with all kinds of junk mail. So if you are moving, do a temporary address change and then contact all your different companies that need to have your new address. And then you can extend it for like 6 months as well. But it's no fun to get spammed by 500 different companies. And you want to make sure that, you're doing the DMA choice and the opt-out pre-screen so you can get off of those lists. And Paper Gator recycling, that's an option. I'm trying to think if they have any down there by you guys in Allegan. There tend to be a lot of them in Grand Rapids, in the Grand Rapids area, and it's where you can, a lot of schools and churches have them in their parking lots, and that's where those churches and schools can get money for people recycling like all of their paper and newspapers and yellow pages, and even they take textbooks and that kind of stuff in there. So it's a great program. So if you check that out as well, see if there's any in the area. All right, so let's talk products. So we're ready to get organized. And like I said, I have a lot of products usually that I like to show, but I wanted to do the best I can to kind of hold things up and talk about all the products that I typically use quite often with my clients. This one behind me, it's kind of hard to see because it's blending in, but the over-the-door organizing, they're really great. See if I can get that in there so I can see color. So they have all the little different pockets in there, and they're really great for organizing. You can do like craft rooms, you can do shoes, you can, I've used them on the doors of pantries as well. And actually, let's see, I want to go back one there. Oh, there we go. This was a closet, pantry closet that I actually did with a client, and we used one of those over-the-door organizers to hold some of her spices and some of her chip clips and that kind of thing. And we actually ended up filling these up with snacks for her kids as well. So they could have them, well, they were at the lower level, so they could have them easier access so for kids, you want to have things at a lower level if you want them to have access to it. And then higher up if you don't want them to have access to it. But the over-the-door organizers are really great, and you can use them in a lot of different areas, and you're using your vertical space, which is really important. You're using it going from top to bottom of the door. And that's one of the spaces a lot of people tend to forget about, is that behind the door area. All right, and then I want to talk about these right here. These are called helper shelves, which I have a couple of them here. This is one type of helper shelf. They look like this. So essentially, when you're putting them in your cabinet, you're giving your space the room under here to use it, and you're using the space over top here as well. And so it makes it easier to get things in and out of that. Oops, I'm trying to get my cursor to go there. So you have that space right here, and then you have that space on top of it right there. And so that little helper shelves gives you the use of all of that vertical space going up and down. Otherwise, if you'd had just the bowls in there, you wouldn't be able to put those in there because you would not be using that vertical space. It would be like this side over here where it's not utilized as much. But helper shelves are great. A lot of these products you can get any of the big box stores. Like I go to Meijer, I go to Target quite often. Walmart has them as well. They have some that have legs that are movable and some that are big, long this way, wide. They have all kinds of various options. So that's the reason why you have to measure your spaces first, because otherwise you're going to end up with buying a bunch of products that aren't going to fit. All right, let's talk about bins like that right here, like this. Now I have a set. There we go. These are usually pretty easy to find. You can find them in the big box stores, but also don't forget your dollar stores. Your dollar stores have a lot of products in there that are very competitive to the big box stores, and they work really great. This is just like your basic size. It's not too big, it's not too small, and you can use it for just about any space in your home. Now, like they are using it here for like lids. Oops, where does it go? There we go. For like lids and other like little pieces and parts, just to keep them together inside of the cabinet. And so these kind of baskets are great. And I usually keep about four to six of these on hand at all times when I'm working with clients, because it's going to be easy to organize with these. Now, a substitute option that you could use for this would be a shoebox, which is very similar to this size as well. So if you want to use something that you already have in your home, let's say, you could use a shoebox to organize with, as long as they're about the same size. You want to, have a consistency in size when you're doing your organizing, because you want things to sit, side by side and be consistent. Now this one happens to be a different one, but I have another one down here. There we go. So if you have them side by side, those are easy and it's nice visually too when you have things that are similar. Okay. Let's see what else we have on there. We have, I don't have one of these in person with me, but these are, these hook onto your shelf where the actual piece of metal goes like this way on the shelf. So it hooks on. So you're using your vertical space with this type of, it just kind of pushes onto the shelf. And so you're using that space to, like, they have like kids bottles or drink bottles and some, looks like maybe some plasticware on that. But that also is a way to utilize that vertical space in your cabinetry. And that works really nice. Up here on the top, that actually is shelf dividers. So those also clip onto the shelf and can divide out your sweaters or your tank tops or whatever you want on your shelf. Like they have a hat over here. And these you can usually get like at Bed Bath & Beyond and Amazon. Amazon has a whole organization section now on their site. If you go on to Amazon and just type in organization, you get all kinds of stuff. A lot of my clients, we actually use Amazon as well for products. Just depends on what your price point is. You can go all the way from using your own recycled items, like this was where some mushrooms came in. I had some of those So I use those in a drawer to kind of keep some of my smaller items together, and using shoe boxes for other organization, all the way up to going to the Container Store where things may be a little bit more pricey, but they're actually very good to use. Just depends on what your price point is. The other part of using vertical spaces. So these cubes are really popular. You can see those in any of the box stores as well. But you see how they use this space to, both have visual display of items, but also to house their books and, maybe magazines in their magazine holder. Maybe they got some paperwork in there. So it's really, these cubes are really a nice use of space, especially when you need to use some vertical space on your wall area. I'm going to go back to that other one. Okay, and then get visual. So sometimes, we want things to look really nice and clean and even and just really, just very visually pleasing. And like this is an example of a job where we put everything into totes that had some seals to them, some gasket seals on them, which are really popular right now. So they can keep out of a lot of insects and mice, and but you can get those at the big box stores as well, some of those gasket containers. But this one is where, it's all pretty much the same size of bins, and they have some nice labels on them right there. Nice labels on the front of them so you can identify what they are. And the one thing that a lot of people don't think about is if you have a container that is clear, you're going to be able to see better what's inside of them instead of having the colored ones. I know everybody's different. Sometimes people don't want to see what's inside the bins. Their labels are just fine for identifying what's in them. But if you want to see what they are, as well as have labels on them, that kind of gives you double duty and being able to organize those items and easily identify them. So, but that was just one example of using some really nice clear bins. Now I like color myself. So I just picked these up at Meijer the other day. There's some of those Sterilite bins that are used a lot of times people use them for shoes. You can use them in your bathroom as well for some products, like in your closet in your bathroom to house like some of your personal care items, or it could be some of your cleaning products underneath your sink. But I like the color because they had purple. I hadn't seen purple before, and that was really nice. So when you want to have a little bit of perk to your organization, look for something with color in it. And I really like that. And sometimes they have mint green is another color that you see quite often, but the purple was the newest one that I saw, and that was really nice. And let's see here. So these are kind of like opaque or kind of clear. The one type of organizing products that are really quite popular are the acrylics. And these acrylics, a lot of times you see these using them in refrigerators, just to house your items. So they're, like with like, and you'll be able to utilize those items a lot easier because you're able to pull these in and out with their handle on the front there. So these are really nice. And the acrylics are nice. That they look nice sitting up on a countertop. They're especially if you kind of do it as a display, then they just work really nice. And I have a set of drawer organizers too. This was one set that I got not too long ago, but it's a whole divided set that you got a little bit bigger picture or bigger box here, and then a little bit smaller, and then some of the smaller ones there, and then some of the bigger ones on that side again. So you can really play with that in your drawer and make it fit. So maybe you don't need this one in your drawer. This was enough to use this side right here. So you can just kind of make it a puzzle and try to figure out which ones work best in your drawer. But this one happens to be acrylic as well, which is really nice. And let's see here. This was actually a Old Spice rack that my sister actually redid. She kind of upcycles different furniture pieces, and we decided to put some nail polish on the shelf, and so it became a nice, pretty visual display. And then we have this was also kind of reusing, repurposing items. So kind of using the ball jars. This one had yarn in it. One had some of the Sharpie markers. This one had some thread. And that one, I can't see it, but on the end was a little bit more of a display type of thing there. So it was using ball jars to house some of the things that maybe look nice in a jar, and you can use it and it still can be displayed and look pretty. And we just have that was a colored glass collection on the bottom shelf there. And then this one up here was a client's bathroom. She really liked these white baskets, which baskets are another form of organizing bins that you can use. And you can get those in all different sizes and colors as well. And I know Michael's has and Joanne Fabrics, well, maybe not Joanne, Michael's has a really nice selection of baskets a lot of times. And I know other stores do too, that people have favorites of where they go for baskets and bins. But I tend to go to the big box stores like Target and Meijer and just kind of look to see what they have. They have ones that are plastic, so they kind of hold up better than some of those that you have to wash out the inserts when you have the actual wicker baskets. Gosh, I cannot get that thing to, there it goes. Yeah, these are the inserts where you have to kind of wash them out. All right, I want to see if there's anything else I need to talk on that. I don't think so. Oh, that's going too far. I wanted to show you a couple more things that I don't have pictures of, but these are the little turntables that are really great to use in your cabinet. You can use them on the corner cabinets. So where you're able, if they're a corner cabinet, sometimes they're hard to get into those corners. So a lot of times if you use them, and they have these in all different sizes too. They have some that are really big that really use those corner cabinets really well. And you can put just about anything on them, spices, oils, decorating gels and those little sugar things and, whatever you like to use. Those are really great to use. Another thing I like are drawer organizers that are fabric. And again, I think I just picked this up at Meijer the other day. These are ones that you kind of put together. They're fabric, and you can keep a lot of your things organized really nicely using these in your drawers. You can kind of set them up again, kind of like a little puzzle piece. And oh, I forgot when I was talking about baskets. These are really kind of handy. These have handles on the end of them. And I got this at the dollar store. And they just had a really nice display of these baskets. And a lot of times I use these in pantries. And it's easy to pull in and out of your pantry if you have things like snacks or snack bars or, just packets. Sometimes I had a bigger ones of these, and I even used canned goods where I've used it where she could pull it in and out easier with one of my clients. So, but these are kind of nice when they have handles on them. For those of you with a junk drawer, we have actual junk drawer organizers. And this top piece actually moves back and forth. But this is where you would empty out your drawer, and then you'd put this in your drawer, and then you would put things in it by category. So like some of your smaller smaller items could go in here, like your matchbox or matches, or just trying to think. Sometimes people put paper clips in there. Sometimes you want to have your pens and pencils handy. Sometimes your tools can go in the bigger part down there, and it just works really nice. And this was I think I just got this like at Walmart, and they had a nice selection. They had bigger ones and they had smaller ones too. And let me see what else I have. Oh, we kind of talked about some paper organization. So sometimes these little magazine holders can be really nice to keep things separated out. If you have multiples of them, you can keep your papers or magazines separated out with these nice magazine holders. And you can get those usually at box stores, but then places like Staples or Office Depot as well. And in your bedrooms, don't forget under your beds as well, because sometimes that can be some good storage for like blankets, off-season clothes, shoes, anything like that. It works out really nicely. All right, so that is a lot of the products I had pulled out. If you have questions, let me see what's the chat. Oh, okay. Wanted to see there. Let me take that out. All right. All right. So what I wanted to talk a little bit about some things that you can recycle or dispose of. I just wanted to mention that Allegan County, if you go to allegancounty.org, it lists out some of the places that you can take your electronics recycling or any of your other type of recycling. In Kent County, they have reimaginetrash.org, which they have a nice site where you can actually enter the name of the item and then do a search of it, and it'll tell you how to dispose of it. The main thing I wanted to talk about too was the using your local pharmacies like Walgreens and Meijer. And your police department, they're in their lobbies. You can take your medications that are expired, and especially the police departments for like your controlled substances, like oxycodone or any of those types of things. You want to, you can drop those off. But Meijer has drop boxes in their pharmacy area where you can bring your expired medications and supplements, and even pet medicines can go into those bins as well, which not everybody knows that they can do that. So, and then your TV and electronics recycling. Again, you want to check with Allegan County on where you can do your electronics recycling. Kent County, they have Valley City Recycling and CompreNew. But for Allegan, you have to check to see where they're letting you recycle those items. And some of the places like Best Buy will recycle like some of the electronics as well. And like your TVs and stuff like that. Those bigger things you have to check with the county to see what their prices are and what their requirements are for doing that recycling. This is just some resources. If you happen to have people that have excessive clutter and they're struggling with that, I wanted to point out that there's some mental health resources out there, like the International OCD Foundation, the Community Mental Health, and there's what's called Children of Hoarders, which actually gives support to the children of people with hoarding disorder. Cleanup help. So if you do need more extensive cleanup help in your home, you can do Bio One, or Service Master is serving all of West Michigan as well. Or you can go to hoarders.com and it'll refer you out to a local cleanup company. Now, if you're needing organization help, NAPO.net. So NAPO is our National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals, which is a big mouthful, I know. And it's our association where organizers belong to, and it has a code of ethics and our basic best practices for being organizers. And we have a Michigan chapter. which I was actually vice president for back for about 4 years, back until like 2020. But if you can do a search on those both websites, the napo.net is a national website, and then Napo, Michigan is a local for Michigan, and you can do a search and you can find an organizer in the area. And Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo tends to have the most organizers on the west side of the state, just so you know if you're looking for somebody local. And then I can always give you a reference of who to work with as well, if you're looking for somebody. Challengingdisorganization.org is for those with chronic challenges. Like I'd mentioned before, what that actually entails is there is some public information on that site where it can help you know about challenging disorganization, and if you have chronic challenges with clutter. So those are just some options out there. And I'm open for some questions. If anybody has any or any comments or anything that comes to mind about the products, I'm willing to answer any questions you have. I see your face going, nope, I don't have any questions.
No, thank you. That was a great lesson.
Well, thank you. I hope I didn't go too fast.
No, I took really good notes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody does have any questions, feel free to, you can email me. Oops,
So
let me go.
I do remember you saying save the sentimental and the intimate for last.
Yes.
So that's pictures, etc.
Yes. Yes. The things that are going to trigger more emotional or memories is, you know, save more time for that and do the easier stuff first.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes
So-
if you have a family friend or somebody that is a good support system for you to kind of go through some of those photos and sentimental items with you,
That's a good idea.
Yeah, see if there's somebody that is willing to do that. I do that as professionally for people if they are really, you know, really need that support and maybe don't necessarily have some family members that are willing or able to do that for them.
And when you're organizing pictures, how do you do that? Do you organize it by years? Do you organize it by families? I mean, how would you start the process?
There actually is it's a whole subset of organizing. It's
Okay.
photo organizers. So I'm not actually one that does the photo organizing because I would rather poke my eyes out than do all of that photo organizing. So there's actual photo organizers in the area that will do that organizing. So, but I know they do it in all different ways. It just depends on what the clients want. If they want it by year or if they want it by occasion, it can be done a lot of different ways.
Different ways, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have anything that came to mind?
No, thank you. I had fun. That was fun.
Well, I thank you very much for attending. And again, my contact information is on that slide there. If you have any questions or anything that comes up.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks everyone for attending. Have a good night.
Have
You
a good
too.
night yourself.